Good evening. We appreciate your patience with us. We had a rather long closed session meeting, but we are back and ready to get started with our agenda as we move forward tonight. A very, very short roll call for everyone. Ms. Sawyer.
Yes. Sharon Warden.
Present.
Pam Pereza. Here. George Archuleta.
Here.
Miss Virginia Houston.
Present.
Mr. Daniel Spence.
Here.
Mr. Rodney Walton.
Here.
And Dr. Sheila Williams. Present. Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to begin with the Financial Committee with the maintenance report that Ms. Wilkins, our Director of Maintenance, has submitted. Does anyone have any questions about those items? You've had an opportunity to look at those. Do you have anything for Ms. Wilkins at this time? If not, we're going to move on and turn to Ms. Haynes, our Chief Financial Officer, who will give her report. Thank you, Ms. Haynes.
Chair Warden, Vice Chair Pereza, Interim Superintendent James Davis, and board members, good evening. Finance has two items for requests to be placed on the consent agenda for the March 22nd meeting. The first item is attachment FBT 02 is budget amendments number 106, 203, and 306. The first amendment, amendment number 106, is for the State Public School Fund and is an overall increase of $94,432 per PRC 063, Children with Disabilities. It's for developmental day funds. The second amendment, amendment number 203, is for the current expense fund and shows no increase or decrease, but reallocates previously budgeted copier costs to supplies. Amendment number 306 is for the Federal Grants Fund and shows an overall increase of $173,466.14. The amendment lines planning allotments to actual allotments, reflects sales tax refunds, and budgets the initial allotments for this year for PRC 118 and 119. And there's an increase to CARES funding in PRC 167, exceptional children. Are there any questions on the budget amendments?
I don't think we have any questions, Ms.
Okay.
Haynes. So we're going to move those to consent agenda so we can take action on those at Monday's board meeting.
Okay. The second item is attachment FBT 03. It's the fundraiser request for spring fundraiser for FFA for plant sales. It's the only fundraiser that was submitted this month. Are there any questions about this request?
No, and this is also to take action on Monday night.
Yes, ma'am. Be placed
Okay.
on consent agenda. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
So if there are no further questions, Chair Warden, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Haynes. Okay, we're going to move on to the Personalized Education Committee, and that is Chair Pereza. Did you want us to take action on the fundraisers for tonight?
I think she's
Okay.
asking if we need to take a vote to put it on the consent agenda.
We'll do that.
Okay. Chair Warden, we have an update from Interim Superintendent Rhonda James Davis on Session Law 2021 for the Senate Bill 220.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Chair Warden, Vice Chair President, and Chair of this board, to all of my colleagues on. Just want to give the public and ask for action to be taken on some information that we received last week about Senate Bill, the then Senate Bill 220. It has now become law, and it's Session Law 2021-4. And that was as of the 11th day of March, which was last Thursday is when it became effective. And under Session Law 2021-4, it's an act to provide access to in-person learning for students in grades kindergarten through 12. And I'm just going to give you some highlights from that session law. For elementary students or students in, we're going to say pre-K through 5, the law says that local boards of education shall provide in-person instruction under Plan A with minimum distancing to all students enrolled in kindergarten through 5. But of course, families will still have an option for the remote option for those elementary students if they choose. Under the session law for secondary students, it says that they could be under Plan A, which is again the minimum distancing, Plan B, which is 6 feet of distancing, like the secondary schools currently are now, or we can have a combination of both. And it says both because the next bullet talks about the students with individualized education plans or students who from IDA have what we call 504 plans for accommodations. Those students, no matter if the secondary students are in Plan A or B, they have an option for Plan A. And again, Plan A talks about the minimum social distancing and doesn't give a distancing. Pretty much it's like kind of back to like what a normal classroom would look like as far as all students who choose to come back, like we had prior to going to the Plan B for 6 feet of social distancing. Right now, I mean, prior to last week, the Plan A also had the 6 feet of social distancing, but that provision was removed. And then remote learning, we will continue to have that option for all families. And so we would have 21 days from when this became law to implement that. And so we're looking at 21 days because we do have some flexibility with the calendar to allow staff to come in, staff to have teachers' workday to plan for it. And so we're looking at our 21 days being implemented on the 12th of April when we return from our Easter break. And so the provision is there also for local boards. If we have situations due to COVID that we have, you know, several staff members who may be out, or if we have several students who may be out, local boards do have the option of shifting from in-person instruction back to remote instruction for classrooms and or schools. But if we do that, we would have to notify the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction within 72 hours. And so I'm coming to the board because right now, again, we will not have an option for elementary students because it says that under that session law 2021-4, that all elementary students have the option of coming back to Plan A. But we do need to decide what the secondary plan will look like. Again, students with IEPs or 504s, they have an option without, they have an option for Plan A. But now I would need for the some discussion, I guess, on the Plan A or Plan B for our secondary students. Currently, we are under Plan B. And with that, again, it's the limited, we have to have 6 feet of social distancing. And in order to, even with the elementary plan, to for those students for transportation, we would have minimal distancing on our buses as well for those elementary students to accommodate that plan of the minimum distancing. And so in order to change, because I know right now our special like high schools, they can only come 1 bell a day, and that's because of the social distancing requirement. And so if we're going to look into those students coming in under a Plan A, we would not have that 6 feet of social distancing, and our leaders have already talked about what type of schedule, the schedule would have to change so that it would go back to a schedule similar to what it was prior to last March of 2020. And that would be 4 bills a day, pretty much starting school around, for high schools, I think it was around 8:30, ending like at 3:30 or something along those lines. So any questions for the board? And I really would like for you all to take action because it is going to require us to bring our staff back in to accommodate those Plan A's.
Are there any questions for Ms. Rhonda James Davis? No? Okay, Chair Warden, I make a motion that we give permission for give permission to provide in-person instruction for, excuse me, grades 6 through 12 under Plan A.
And I second that.
Got a motion and a second to provide face-to-face instruction in grades 6 through 12 under Plan A. Is there any discussion?
Is that Ms. Houston?
Ms. Houston, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I did not.
Okay. All right, just making sure. All right, so we're prepared to take a vote.
Thank you.
Tammy?
Pam Perezza,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Yes.
Carries. Thank you.
Okay, the motion has carried. We will go back to face-to-face instruction in both elementary and secondary level under Plan A. Okay, any questions or discussion
I
before
just
moving
want to,
forward?
I just want to make a comment that we are considering and looking at Plan A, that we will have to have the staffing because that is important for all of the children to return in Plan A. And even though we're not, I guess I shouldn't say that. If we have to consider anything opposite of that, it will be based on staffing because that was based on the discussion.
And the other thing I want to make known, with the minimal distancing, there's still going to be the face mask, right? And the monitor as the student goes in, right?
Yes, sir. We would still have to have, and I'm sorry I didn't mention that. Thank you, Mr. Archuleta. We would still have the students to, just like they're doing now when they're going into the building, they would have the temperature checks and all those safety protocols that are in place because we still have to follow that Strong Schools toolkit when it comes to the monitoring, and face masks would still be the requirement for all.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll go to curriculum updates from Dr. Amy Spencer.
Good evening, Board Chair Warden, Vice Chair and Committee Chair Perezza, Interim Superintendent Mrs. James Davis. Tonight I will be sharing curriculum updates on the following topics: accountability, learning pods, Sylvan, summer learning, and virtual learning options for 21-22 school year. I'll start with accountability. As you know, ECPPS was approved for an extended testing window for fall CTE post-assessments and the fall EOCs. Schools are continuing to work with parents to make arrangements for their children to come in and take their state-required assessments. Learning pods. The board approved the memorandum of understanding, and that has been sent to the sites with approved health and safety plans. We have heard back from one site that cannot partner at this time due to extenuating circumstances, and we are awaiting to hear from the other. Sylvan. As of today, the total number of students being served by Sylvan is 790 students. 282 students are being served face-to-face. and 508 are being served virtually. Summer program plan. Per the state, the schools offering a summer program must have a written summer plan, and that is presented to the board and approved. In previous years, this has been presented. This year, the deadline for submitting has been extended. The curriculum and instruction team is currently preparing summer program plan options for all K-12 students who are at risk for academic failure. And we are also monitoring House Bill 82. As the passage of this bill will inform decisions that we are making concerning the summer program plan options. The summer program plans will be presented as an item for approval in April. For the virtual learning options in 21-22, we have created a steering committee, and we are meeting to research and explore virtual options for the 21-22 school year. And then finally, as presented in last month's committee and board meeting, each spring, the principals bring their consolidated school improvement plans to the board. These updates include the goals and strategies that have been developed to improve identified areas of weakness, analysis, and the evidence to determine how effective the strategy was and the impact it has toward meeting their goals. The next steps determined to achieve their goals are also included. Tonight, you will hear consolidated school improvement updates from the following schools. Principal Sammy Fudge from Central Elementary School, Principal Danae Banks from J.C. Sawyer Elementary School, and Principal James Schiffbauer from Weeksville Elementary. Each principal will have 5 to 7 minutes to present their updates, and they will answer any questions you may have at the conclusion of their presentation. So we will start with Mr. Fudge.
Good evening, Madam Board Chair Warden, Vice Chair, Committee Chair Pereza, Interim Superintendent Ms. James Davis, and board members. I'd like to thank you for giving me an opportunity to provide the board with an update of our school improvement plan. I'd like to start with some demographic information about our school. Next slide, please. We currently have 300 kids in grades K through 5. Next slide. We're very blessed to have a very committed and dedicated staff. Roughly 58% of our teachers have 10 plus years of teaching experience. 17% of our teachers have between 4 and 10 years of experience, and 25% of our teachers are between years 1 and 3. Next slide, please. This slide serves as the foundation for our school improvement plan. It's the 2018-19 reading and math results from spring EOG. We show significant growth in grades 3 and 4 in reading with a pass rate of 64% and 59% respectively. In math, we show significant growth at grades 3 and 5, roughly 84% and 69% respectively. And like I said before, this is the foundation for our plan. The next slide, please. We identified 6 areas of concerns that we're focusing on for the upcoming year. We're looking at increasing student achievement in the areas of math, increasing student achievement in ELA reading, building teacher instructional effectiveness by providing ongoing professional development on differentiation of instruction, implementing PBIS with fidelity, providing social and emotional support for our students, and we're also looking at increasing parental involvement at our schools. Next slide, please. Okay. Our goal 1, we're focusing on showing a 3% increase in math by the end of the 21-22 school year. And we're focusing in on number and number sense. And to do that, there's some strategies that we're looking at putting in place. We're going to be working with ongoing professional development with Dr. Dan Mulligan, taking our kids from the concrete to the pictorial to the abstract thinking in math. We're also going to implement a weekly math remediation period. We're going to implement Maranzano 6-step vocabulary strategy. Next slide, please. We're going to hold frequent data talks to talk about how our kids are doing. We're also going to do quick 5 assessments. They're going to give us quick feedback on our students' progress. We're going to focus on similarities and differences. And also we're going to implement math talks. Next slide, please. Just like math, we're looking to show a 3% increase in our reading ELA scores by the end of the 21-22 school year. We're focusing on vocabulary. That's one of the areas that we have identified as that foundational piece for our kids. We're focusing on summarizing and note-taking and similarities and differences. We're also exploring implementing a writing program K through 5. And based on the data, we're going to implement a reading intervention period twice weekly. Next slide, please. Goal 3 was our focuses on building building teacher capacity by focusing in on differentiation of instruction. I want to emphasize this is a 3-year plan, this goal here. We're going to start in March of 2021, but we're looking to have this somewhat hopefully completed by 2024. That's our goal. Ongoing professional development will be given by Dr. Dan Mulligan. As a staff, we have to find a working definition for differentiation that fits our school. We're going to incorporate that in our daily lessons. We're going to do ongoing monitoring and evaluation of the process. And we're creating a professional library with differentiation of lessons for staff to use. Next slide, please. Goal 4 is we continue to focus on implementing PBIS Tier 1 and 2 strategies with fidelity, empowering our teachers with the tools necessary to reduce classroom disruption, and also that which lead to office referrals. Next slide. We will administer a climate survey to evaluate how we're doing. That feedback is so greatly needed. Our guidance counselor has implemented a daily check-in and check-out form with our kids, and that's currently working very well for us. Next slide. Goal 5 will focus on ongoing professional development in the areas of social and emotional needs of our students. We're going to be working with Dr. John Hendershot on an ongoing basis. Our guidance counselor is currently holding small groups, or will be holding small groups based on students' needs. Monthly professional development will be given on social and emotional needs for our students. And the next slide. Goal 6, we're looking to increase parental involvement in our school. We'll definitely hold quarterly family engagement Title I nights. With the support of our PTA, we're looking to implement a fall festival. We're going to start with a family fun night and a luncheon for our grandparents. Quarterly honor roll assemblies will be held for grades 3 through 5. Principal talks will be held quarterly. Donuts for Dads, Muffin Saman will be held twice yearly. And then in conclusion of our plan, I just want to emphasize to the board is that you can't work under stress. So our motto is that we're going to work with a controlled sense of urgency. We're shooting for fidelity, so we're not in a rush to get things done. We will make sure we do things right. We're going to constantly evaluate and monitor as we go through the process. We're focusing on building teacher capacity. As we build teacher capacity, our kids are going to be successful. And in conclusion, I'd like to thank the board for providing me with the opportunity to share our school improvement plan. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Fudge?
Thank you, Principal Fudge. We will now hear from Principal Banks from J.C. Sawyer Elementary School.
Good evening, Board Chair Sharon Warden, Vice Chair Pam Pereza, Interim Superintendent Rhonda James Davis, board members, colleagues, and community members. My name is Danae Banks, and I am the proud principal of J.C. Sawyer Elementary School. I'm going to provide you with an update of our consolidated school improvement plan. Our theme for this year is New Year, New Challenge, Game On. Next slide. Who are we? We are J.C. Sawyer Elementary School Dolphins. We have a school population of 344 students. We have a staff that consists of 19 classroom teachers, 3 Connect teachers, 6 instructional assistants, and we have a high community, and family involvement. During our drive-through meet and greet for all grade levels, approximately 70% of families came out to meet their teachers. We are very family-oriented staff, and we're working on building a positive school culture for J.C. Sawyer. Next slide, please. Data review, outcomes and targets. 2016, 2017, we had a school performance grade of 53, which is the overall school grade of D. 2017, 2018, we had a school performance grade of 57, overall school grade of C. 2018, 2019, we had a school performance grade of 59, overall school grade of C. 2019, 2020, we have no state testing data. And our target for 2020, 2021, this school year is a school performance grade of 70 and an overall school grade of B. How do we plan to achieve this target? We have selected 3 goals. Our first goal is to increase teachers' instructional capacity in a blended learning environment to establish and achieve high expectations for all students. Our leadership team has committed to provide meaningful opportunities for teachers to cultivate and build best teaching practices. This will meet the diverse student population that we have at J.C. Sawyer Elementary School and develop a sense of unity. We will measure this goal through iReady data, SchoolNet, test assessments, informal and formal assessments, and teacher observations. How do we plan to achieve this? We have used data observations and surveys from staff to create professional development sessions based on teacher and student needs. I'm working closely with my assistant principal and instructional coach to establish areas of need on teacher submitted lesson plans. I'm collaborating with district staff, professionals, and principal colleagues on best teaching practices. We are participating in North Carolina Schools That Lead, North Carolina Public School Forum, and NCPPS. Next slide. What supporting evidence do we have? Guided reading training for the staff, resilience training for the staff, instructional coach and media coordinator academy during the summer and ongoing on Canvas, teacher observations from admin, instructional coach observations, drop-ins, data discussions, discuss best practices, improvement science research strategies, professional readings, and I work closely with my mentor, Dr. Eads. Next slide. What has our evidence revealed? Differentiated instruction is taking place in all classrooms. Staff is more aware and attentive to students' social and emotional needs. Teachers are more comfortable with Canvas. Lesson plans are detailed and turned in weekly. Data shows an improvement from beginning of the year to mid of the year from our iReady and SchoolNet data. Documentation logs with visits from Dr. Eads and coaching notes that the principal indicates that the principal is working closely with my mentor, seeking information concerning effective leadership and best teaching practices. Next slide. In order to ensure a high quality, high performing staff and reduce teacher turnover, we want to change the culture at J.C. Sawyer by supporting social and emotional learning. J.C. Sawyer will provide social and emotional training activities and support for each staff member. Staff will participate in monthly social and emotional activities and use these activities to provide social and emotional support for our peers, the students, and parents. Next slide. How do we plan to do this? We have implemented focused and intentional professional development for staff. PLCs are data-driven and MTSS, morale boosters, staff spotlights, growth parties, motivational messages, celebrations. Next slide. What evidence do we have to support this? Resilience training, implementation of a data room, MTSS trainings module and modules are completed. Donuts for staff, Christmas appreciation meal for staff, 12 days of Christmas celebration for staff, motivational emails and reminders, positive notes and calls, 10 on 10 game, and employee of the month. Next slide. What has this evidence revealed? Staff is more aware of how to teach students that have experienced trauma. The data room is current and displays evidence that students have improved from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. Our MTSS strategies are being implemented and impacting student achievement. Staff is eager to report to work on a daily basis. The morale in the building has improved. Even in these uncertain times, staff is convinced that we will get through this together. Next slide. Finally, our third goal is to provide accelerated learning opportunities for students to close achievement gaps and increase student achievement. Jason Sawyer will increase the amount of tutoring and other additional services for students to increase student achievement. Next slide. How do we plan to achieve this goal? With reading STEM activity, tutorial services, Sylvan tutoring, all players in the game activity, summer acceleration program, and incentives for students. Next slide. What evidence do we have to support this goal? We've had our Title I Reading STEM Activity Night, March the 11th, which was a great success. We have 4 tutors in the building from 8 to 12, serving grades 2 through 5. 75 students are receiving tutorial services provided by Sylvan, my 4th and 5th grade students. And the 4th grade students are participating in all players in the game event. Next slide. What does our evidence reveal? Data shows an increase in scores, increased motivation for 4th and 5th grade students. Attendance has increased in 4th and 5th grade. Great success. We are working diligently to reach our goals at J.C. Sawyer Elementary School. Every decision is based on a single question. How would this help increase student achievement and close the achievement gap? Thank you for your time and your support and for this opportunity to update you on our consolidated school improvement plan.
Thank you, Ms. Banks. Are there any questions for Ms. Banks?
Thank you, Principal Banks. We'll conclude this evening's presentations with Principal Schiffbauer from Weeksville Elementary School.
Good evening, Madam Chair Warden, Vice Chair Pereza, Interim Superintendent Ms. James Davis, board members, and guests. I'm Jim Schiffbauer, Principal of Weeksville Elementary, and I'm here to update you on our consolidated school improvement plan for this year. Next slide. At Weeksville, our vision is strong, our connection is strong. This is our motto for our 2020-2020 school year. Next slide. So what I'd like to share with you is an update to what our data has looked like with a trend of the past 3 years. So as you can see, Weeksville for the past 3 years has met growth, and they've bounced from a C school to a B school, with last year, before COVID hit, was targeting to be another B school, with 67% in reading, 75% in math, 85% science, which would have gave us an overall school achievement score of 76%, which would have brought our grade back up to a B. Next slide. As our growth data shows, they've met growth each of the past 3 years, but due to COVID last year, we do not have our growth data to share. Next slide. So our goals and strategies of how we're going to get back to being a B school here at Weeksville. Next slide. Goal 1, develop and implement a plan to support a highly effective staff and school culture to promote teacher retention, focusing on the social emotional needs of staff and students for all stakeholders at Weeksville Elementary. Strategies. We hold morning meetings every day with our students and staff. Teachers get a chance to build relationships through these morning meetings with their students, and this really goes a long way with understanding the social needs and emotional needs of our children. We also have two-way communication with Parent Square, weekly Bulldog phone folders that go home, connect calls. I also do positive parent phone calls, so do the staff, but they send down referrals to me, which positive referrals that I make phone calls to virtual kids and face-to-face kids. And we also communicate through our Facebook page. We also have our monthly staff morale boosters. Staff celebrations and shout outs go out weekly in the Bulldog Blaze that I send out to the staff. We do a quarterly staff wellness happy hour where it's kind of like a check-in. We do it as a Google Meet. We kind of kick back, just have social time, really build some morale and get to know one another off the teaching aspect of the game around Weeksville. We also do the positive referrals that I referred to previously for face-to-face students and virtual students. And then we have our planned academic Title I events. Next slide. Goal 2, we improve student academic performance through the MTSS framework with a focus on students' academic and social-emotional academic needs. And we do student growth will be measured through formative and summative data. Next slide. So the strategies we're using to obtain this is we have weekly PLC communities. We also have team planning, which is vertical planning on Wednesdays, where K1, 2 and 3, and 4 and 5 meet with administration, counselor, and instructional coach. We also have bi-monthly data dives in literacy and math using our iReady data. Right now we have after-school tutoring going for K through 5. I have 15 teachers servicing about 60 students. During the day, we also have tutoring through Sylvan 2 days a week for K5 as well. Unit common assessments are being used by all classes K5. And then we are collecting formative and summative data. And from this, we use that to differentiate and form our small group instruction. Next slide. Goal 3. At Weeksville, we are effectively communicating to parents and staff throughout virtual learning and school through this school year and share a level of transparency that supports all stakeholders and creating a community of learning for everyone. How are we obtaining this? Next slide. Our strategies. I send out a Bulldog Blaze newsletter to every staff member on the weekend with updated information of what's upcoming in the week. We also have a weekly mail out that goes through Parent Square to all parents from myself, updating them about what is going on throughout the week as well. We also communicate to each other through Parent Square. Staff communicates to parents, I communicate to parents, as well as I communicate to the staff. We also have created a Weeksville Canvas page where we house all our pertinent information. We've uploaded a lot of videos there for staff to have connection to and gives them a chance to use as resources. We also have our virtual PLC meetings weekly, and then we have our virtual Title I events. So supporting all this through our professional development, we're doing the following. We have our data and MTSS discussions focused on student achievement with myself and the counselor. We also have done responsive classroom training through Title I funds. We've sent a total of 9 teachers to do responsive classroom, which is where we do our morning meetings, and we've also done closing circles. We've done Canvas training. We've also had teachers present to each other through Canvas. We've done iReady PD with an iReady trainer this year. And we've also just started our Jan Richardson guided reading training using our Title I funds. And we're getting ready to start our number talks, which is focused on number sense using our Title I funds as well. So these are the ways that we're using to update with our plan. And I want to thank you all for your support. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Principal Schiffbauer. Board Chair Warden, Vice Chair, and Committee Chair Pereza, that concludes the curriculum updates for this evening.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Spencer from the board? Okay, thank you, Dr. Spencer. Thank you. All right, and Chair Warden, that concludes my committee's agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Pereza, and we will move on to excellent educators, Dr. Williams.
Okay, excellent educators. We will have Dr. Spencer, if you will return. I think you have one item for us.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Board Chair Warden, Committee Chair Dr. Williams, Superintendent Rhonda James Davis, and board members. It is that time of year again to select the Elizabeth City Pasquotank County District Teacher of the Year. First and foremost, thank you for your continued support and excellence in education and supporting our teachers in our district. We are very appreciative of that support and for all you do. As in the past, we are asking that a member of the Board of Education serve on the district committee. Last year, Mr. George Archuleta did, and we appreciated and valued his input and commitment. All members of the district selection committee will do 3 things. You will select the 3 finalists from the 13 school level teachers of the year. You will conduct a virtual interview of each finalist, and then you will select the district teacher of the year from those 3 finalists. These responsibilities will be conducted in the month of April. I appreciate your time and consideration to this request. That concludes my request.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Do you, or are we gonna?
What I'd like to
select now?
suggest at this time, if we may, I'd like for you all to consider whether or not you would volunteer to serve as the representative for us from the board for the Teacher of the Year. How soon do you need this information from us?
If you can let me know by next Monday at the board meeting, that would be completely fine
Okay.
and acceptable.
And again, it involves, will you go over what it
Absolutely.
involves again?
And so you will be selecting the 3 finalists for the Teacher of the Year. They will each conduct or complete a portfolio, and there will be a rubric to score that portfolio. We will select 3 finalists from that, and then those 3 finalists will be asked to participate in an interview. Again, that will be virtual. You will interview with some pre-selected questions, and there will be a rubric to be able to score that as well. And then once you have done that, then you will obviously have selected the District Teacher of the Year.
So with those things in mind, I want you to think about whether or not you would like to serve as that representative and come back with an answer next week. At our board meeting, we will make a decision at that time.
Thank you very much.
And before we move forward, I do want to vote on the 2 items from the Financial Committee to move them to the consent agenda for action to be taken at Monday's board meeting. Those are the budget amendments and the fundraisers. So at this time, can I have a motion to move those to the consent agenda for action to be taken on Monday at the board meeting?
I move that we consider for the consent agenda, the budget items and the fundraiser.
Okay, and I need a second.
Second.
All right. And we will let's just take a hand vote at this time. Everyone in favor, raise your hand. Okay, that's everyone. Tammy. All right, thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on now to the Policy Committee. Ms. Houston.
Everybody. Is there any further discussion on policy 5020 before I move to the motion?
Any discussion? I don't think so, Ms. Houston.
Okay, hearing none. I move to suspend the requirements of policy 2420, adoption of policies as permitted by policy 2450, suspension of board policies to allow visitors in the school's policy to be amended effective today.
Second. All right, we've had a motion and a second involving policy 5020. Is there any discussion?
Chair Warden, who made the motion and second, please?
The second was made by Ms. Pereza. And we'll take a roll call vote on this.
And Pam Perez,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Committee Chair Houston, I make a motion that we modify policy 5020 visitors to the schools for the purpose of allowing visitors as it pertains to extracurricular activities. in addition to that, I make the motion that we modify the policy to allow visitors for the purpose of volunteering to help with an extracurricular activity only as approved by the school principal that is necessary for the particular extracurricular activity. In addition to that, those volunteers and visitors would only be approved to volunteer for the approved activity. Is that clear enough, Tammy?
Ms. Pereza, did you include the locations?
Yes, I said, well, they would only be allowed to volunteer and help with the particular activity that they are approved by their principal of that building. They would only be allowed to go into, the complex or the gym or whatever location that is approved for that activity. For example, if they were volunteering to help with basketball, they would only be allowed to go into the gymnasium for basketball.
Thank you.
And do you want me to go into detail about the procedure? There will be and then we would develop a procedure for the schools to follow on how it gets approved by the principal on who can be allowed at these events and activities.
Second.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second on the amendment for policy 5020 involving visitors to the schools. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Tammy?
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Yes.
Carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to reinstate policy 2450.
Reinstate policy 2450.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Second.
Okay. All right. We need a roll call if there is no discussion.
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston,
Yes.
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. It carries.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more piece of business that falls under other. As you are aware, we are facing once again the responsibility of selecting a new superintendent for our district. And at this, we have had a discussion about this and have made the decision as a board that we are not in any hurry. We are very pleased with the direction in which our district is going. We are very pleased with the professionalism that we have as a part of our district. And we are very excited about the direction in which we are moving at this time. So with that said, we have discussed about the possibility of putting someone in as an interim, as a retired a retired superintendent. As we all are aware, Ms. Rhonda James Davis is doing a phenomenal job as our interim at the present time, and will continue to do that through the month of July and possibly beyond, depending on when the new person we select as our interim is able to arrive. It is our desire that Ms. James Davis will seriously consider when the time is appropriate, will seriously consider applying for the position if she so desires. But at this time, she has requested that once this interim duty that she is fulfilling at this time has ended, she would like to go back to her position as Director of Human Resources. And we are going to honor that request. So I would like to ask for a motion from the floor, if there is no discussion, that we extend a contract offering to the candidate that we are considering for the interim superintendent position beginning as of August the 1st. Is there any discussion at this time? May I have a motion from the floor?
I make a motion that we extend an offer to the interim, the one we discussed as far as an interim superintendent.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion?
We need to name
Yeah.
the individual.
The interim superintendent that we have, we are going to have Mr. Leidy go into negotiations with as far as a contract is Dr. Eddie Ingram. And he is a gentleman who is from here. He is a native of Elizabeth City. He attended the Elizabeth City Pasquotank County School System. He served time here as a teacher in the system. He also served as a principal and an assistant principal within other districts of North Carolina. He has also served in the position of assistant superintendent and superintendent in North Carolina and is currently serving as superintendent in South Carolina. He will be returning to Elizabeth City as a permanent resident, and we are very excited about having him as our interim. As an added bonus, he has worked very, very closely with Ms. Rhonda James Davis in another system here in our region, in the Currituck County School System. And he has served as not only side by side with her, but as a mentor for her throughout the years. So we are all extremely excited, and we hope that our staffs will be as excited as we are. As I said, we find ourselves looking at an opportunity here, and we've made some very, very massive strides in our district as a result of not only our former superintendent Dr. Catherine Edmonds, but also our superior professional staff. We cannot say enough about the people who are part of Elizabeth City, Pasquotank County. And we are so excited to have the leadership that you have given, the dedication, the continued collaboration, all for the students of Elizabeth City, Pasquotank County. So with that said, may we have a vote on this selection at this time? Ms. Sawyer.
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston,
yes,
Daniel Spence,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else from any board members? All right. May I have a motion to adjourn
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Have a very, very good evening, everyone. Try to get you out of here before 9 o'clock.
Thank you.